Howdy do Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box Podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And we're at episode 198.
Yeehaw!
Have you ever thought what it's like to be wanderers in the fourth dimension?
Nobody in the universe can do what we're doing.
I've reversed the polarity of the neutron flow, so the TARDIS should be free of the force field now.
There's no point in being grown up if you can't be childish sometimes.
The trouble with time travel is, one never seems to find the time.
Change, my dear, and it seems not a moment too soon.
Unlimited rice pudding, etc., etc.
I am the Doctor!
Great men are forged in fire. It is the privilege of lesser men to light the flame.
I'm the Doctor. This is Rose Tyler. She's my +1. Is that all right?
That would be me.
Hello. Surprise!
Boom, etc.
I'm the Doctor. Do everything I tell you. Don't ask stupid questions. And don't wander off.
How can you kid this? I don't like the colour.
Howdy do Who fans, welcome to episode 198. Hope you've all had a cracking week and that you've all managed to do something Doctor Who related. Coming up in today's show, we actually have some worthy news and merch to go through.
Yes.
Which is always nice. And then our review of that Torchwood story that nobody likes. But do we like it?
Actually, yeah. I was going to say it's. I knew it'd be an interesting one when it came to the listeners' comments, and they've been varied, so it will be good when we get to review that later. Interesting. How have you been, buddy? You've been up to much? Very interesting. What have I been up to? Not a great deal, my friend. I've just been suffering majorly from post-con blues. I don't know about you. It's just after London Film Comic Con, I was just like, that Monday, I was just and last night I was on the iPad just sort of flicking through. Is there any little event I could get to? It's like I need a little fix. I need a little con to go to. I think what it is actually we need a meetup. Actually, I was thinking this. It's not necessarily like meeting the guests and stuff like that. I just miss that meeting up with fellow Who fans. I think we need to arrange a meetup because that's what I miss. Because when we went to the pub afterwards, it was brilliant. Just everyone just chatting, and a few people have messaged me since saying, we got to meet up again. It was so cool. So yeah. So apart from that, I had a couple of little deliveries this week. I had the new Sonic arrived from Character. The toy. Yeah. I see a few people have got this, and a few people have managed to get hold of the US one, haven't they?
Yes.
And we've managed to see both, and I think we can both agree the US one's much better. I'm not going to say too much because I'm going to be filming a review of it this afternoon after we finish recording. So I'll save most of my thoughts for that. But
okay.
Yeah, mixed reaction to it. It was cool to get something 13th Doctor-ish, a bit of 13th Doctor merch. But I'm not overly impressed with the actual toy. But the actual Sonic's growing on me, so a bit of a mixed reaction. On this one, but so that's cool. So I haven't really had much else through the post. Actually, I've been quite good. I think I'm just still broke from LFCC. I've actually not been able to buy anything. But I haven't really had a chance to watch any classic Who since we last recorded. I kind of miss Twitch, to be honest with you. I miss being able to just like put it on in the background, like I know you can go and get a DVD and stuff, but the thing is, then everyone in the household has to watch it, whereas on Twitch I could just put it on the laptop and carry on doing what I was doing and it was just there, so I'm kind of missing Twitch a little bit where it comes to classic Who. So that's been me, mate. Not a great deal, just to do Sonic, which is okay, and it's good to see other people getting it as well. It's nice to see Who fans embracing the merch that's out there, even if the reaction to it's a bit mixed, because it's been a bit dry for a while, hasn't it?
It has been, yeah.
And it's been a bit dry. Like we've said a few times when we've gone into FP, and there's been absolutely naff all on the shelf. And I think, hopefully, when we next go in there, when we next go, I was trying to think what's coming out. Yeah, when we next go in there should be some 13th Doctor merch on those shelves. They should be able to flesh it out a bit, because there's that doll coming out, there's the Titan figures, there's the Sonic, there's that rock candy thing. No sign of the Funko Pop yet, though.
No.
That doesn't seem to have made its way over, and I'm quite gutted about that, because I actually really like the look of the 13th Doctor pop. I don't know about you. I really did like that.
Yes.
But it hasn't made its way over to the UK yet. I haven't even seen any on eBay. I've searched it now and again and can't even see it on there. So don't know what's going on with that.
It normally takes a little while, doesn't it? Because that was a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Which is weird because it's not I know we haven't had enough of there's no chance for the variants of those Funko Pops to go through the mill yet. So it's only the standard, 13th Doctor in the standard costume. So it's nothing. Do you know what I'm trying? Like normally when those San Diego Comic-Con ones come out, there's like one of the characters are in a different costume or they've got a little accessory. It's like something about it that makes it an exclusive, if you like. Whereas this one, it's not. There's nothing special about it, if that makes sense. It's just the standard 13th Doctor figure. So I don't know why it's so restrictive at the moment.
No, it's weird you say that because I thought exactly the same thing. Like, I can only assume that maybe in the regular one to be released, she'll have a Sonic in her hand or something. I don't know. There must be something different about it because I thought the same thing about the Titan figures. The big 6.5 ones that they did for SDCC, because that's the 30th Doctor in a costume. And I was thinking, so if that's the regular one that's limited to the convention, what's the one going to be that sort of gets a general release? Like, what's going to be different about it? Because, that's like the normal Doctor. There's nothing different about it. Exactly what you were saying. Like, if they did a different colour top. But yeah, it's a bit strange, isn't it? Unless they're just going to put a Sonic in the hand and rebox it. I don't know. We shall have to see. It's very strange. We don't know what's going on.
Yeah, normally forbiddenplanet.co.uk, they normally put a pre-order up at least for the SDCC stuff that comes out each year fairly soon after the event. But I've been looking on their website for last week or so, and there's been nothing on there. So strange.
Actually, I've just I can't believe I forgot to say this. I just talking of like going into Forbidden Planet, I went into because I was up in Middlesbrough at the weekend, saw our good friends the Who Addicts, and I also got to go around and see Ben Lett, the Host Productions.
Oh yes.
Very briefly got to go in his room where he films his videos. My God, his collection is something else. It is incredible. He's got all these lovely cabinets and they're filled with figures, and oh my word, I just wanted to just stand there and stare at it. It was incredible. But yeah, it does remind me that I also went to Forbidden Planet International, the shop, the other FP that they have in Middlesbrough. And they had the new Sonic, just two of them shoved up on the shelf, and they had the doll, the 13th Doctor doll.
Right. Yeah.
And that was the only merch they had of Doctor Who wise in the whole shop. And obviously I bought the Sonic, and I have to say the guy was a bit grumpy. He was just I was like trying to be my usual cheery self, and he was just like, all right, mate, yeah, like $14.99, please, yeah. But yeah, so that was pretty cool. So I did get to do that at the weekend, which was quite fun. But
yeah, I know what you mean about FP International. Their shop seemed to have really sort of dumbed down on the like the whole section's dedicated to a certain franchise, if you like.
Yeah. Well, they used to have a little Who section, but there was nothing.
Yeah. I went into one in Edinburgh last month when I went up there for my wife's birthday. And we went in, they've got a fairly sizable store up there in Edinburgh. And exactly the same thing, mate. It was just barren of Doctor Who merch. There was a couple of... they had some Funko Pops there, which seems to be the thing. And that was pretty much it. I mean, there was a couple of... They had like the blue satchel bag. I think they had a teapot and something else. It was like a really old bit of Doctor Who merch. It was, it came out years ago. It was it was just not good.
No, I'll tell you, I've just remembered they had one other little piece of merch on their sale rack, which was a pack of Doctor Who Christmas cards.
Wowzers. Yep.
I know. I nearly bought them as well. I was thinking, well, it'll be here in a couple of months. Should I get them in advance? But I thought, no, I won't. They look terrible.
Talking of of normal Forbidden, I shouldn't say normal Forbidden Planet, should I? No.
It's so confusing having two.
The other one. So Forbidden Planet International is when we reference the .co.uk website and their shops. When we just say Forbidden Planet, we mean forbiddenplanet.com or, the mega stores with the big rocket ship as their logo.
The big rocket, the good one, yeah.
So I went into the London one last week, actually, because I have to go into London once every couple of weeks with work to the office there, and it's only about a 12-minute walk from there.
Yeah.
So I went round there, and they do have the 13th Doctor figures. You know, the Jodie figure, the
doll
figure.
or the Titan.
No, it's not the. It's the actual figure, if that makes sense. You know, the Jodie figure.
The 10-inch one.
Yeah. No, not that big. You know when you just buy a normal action figure.
Yeah.
It's that they've got those. They've got those on the shelf, and they've got the little kawaii things.
Yeah, they've got those, have they?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm trying to... you know the figure I'm talking about? Oh, it is 10-inch, sorry, the 10-inch figure.
I thought it must be,
sorry.
yeah, I thought it must be.
Sorry, mate, yeah. And they still doing this god-awful bloody blue and yellow packaging.
I'm not struck on the packaging because I thought with the new Doctor we'd see some really cool. It looks very kiddie, doesn't it? It looks very young, aimed at the younger market. The packaging. Yeah. Talking of miserable staff, by the way,
here we go.
I phoned around a couple of my local B&Ms yesterday trying to get these new sets. You know, there's the third Doctor with the TARDIS, which I really like the look of that set. And there's a couple of other figure sets as well. I think there's like a 70s with Fourth Doctor, and there's a Capaldi set of a Pearl figure that looks dreadful, but but I really want those new sets, especially the TARDIS, and they were supposed to come out on Monday, and apparently they've been delayed. But I phoned around a couple of stores. My God, I really wish Character wouldn't make them exclusive to B&M, because A, it makes them hard to get. B, you can't order them online, so you have to just constantly keep phoning the shops to see if they've got them, because you don't want to drive, like none of them are close to me, so I've got to make a drive to get to either of them, or a train journey actually. Right. And so your only option is to just constantly phone the store every couple of days and say, have you got them? Because of course we know as soon as they get them greedy people go in and buy them all and then bung them on eBay, and I'm just it happens every time with these B&M sets. So I phoned them on Monday, and both stores were like, oh, we've already had people phoning, we haven't got them. Oh, right, just really like, sorry to bother you. Sorry to have bothered you. It's just, oh man. Crikey. I had the same with the last set actually. It's one of my, it really infuriates me. It burns the bacon, as you would say.
Bacon.
It really does, yeah. It drives me mad when these B&M sets come out. Just trying to get them before all the eBayers grab them all. It's really frustrating. Mm-hmm. Yeah, or trying to find a store that's actually got them. So, but I'll make it my mission. Somebody said to me last night, "You're going to do one of your B&M Quest videos?" I said, "Yes, it's already started." So yeah, I am looking forward to getting that TARDIS. I've seen a picture of it on Twitter. It does look, I don't get the whole black base thing. That it's got like a black base. It looks weird, but I don't know, something about it. I kind of want it. Yeah, my other half's furious.
Oh no.
Because I was saying to him, I'm trying to get these sets, and oh God, not another TARDIS. He's like, we don't need another TARDIS in the house. Like, yeah, but it's a special repainted one.
It's a special one.
A special one. I said it's going to be really hard to get, and the troubles of being a Doctor Who fan.
Of course, yeah.
Yes.
So that's all they had in that FP in the London one. Those two Titan variants, so the Kawaii one and the normal. Those little 6.5-inch figures, aren't they?
Yeah, I have an issue with the Kawaii one. I'm not going to say what it is, but when you watch my review video when it comes out, well, it'll be the day this podcast come out on the Friday. I think you'll find it quite funny. As I was filming, I thought you'll be laughing at that, because it's something that drives me mad when it happens with a figure, and it happens with this one. Yeah, you'll see.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of these ones, mate.
You don't like them, I know.
No, there's been a few people that have tweeted us to say, look, we've got these cool figures up on the shelf, and because I'm not a fan of the Kawaii versions anyway. No. And the standard Titan one, she just looks like the face is not good, in my opinion anyway.
Wait, I gotta say, I don't know, you might wait till you see the video. I do a good close-up of it, and I beg to differ, but
right.
We'll see if you agree. You might not agree.
Okay,
but
I'll await your awesome review.
It's going to be one of those where people are either going to say, "Oh yeah," actually, or it'll be like, "What are you talking about? It looks dreadful," but we'll see.
So I can't wait for the Funko Pop though. I'm up for getting that one.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I hope that maybe it'll make its way over when the new series starts. Possibly. Whenever that is.
Indeedy. I haven't been up to anything, mate. Doctor Who wise, I watched a classic the other night though. I watched Horror of Fang Rock. Haven't watched that in a while.
I haven't watched that in a while. Yeah, it's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a good one. And I had a small delivery. It was just it was issue 2 of the 7th Doctor comics.
Oh yes, I got that. I haven't had a chance to read it yet.
No, me either. But fairly quiet.
They're lovely, actually. The covers on those 7th Doctor comics, aren't they? I know you don't normally get all the variants, but you have with this one.
I have with this one.
Yeah, same with me, mate. I think they're really nice. Yeah,
they're very cool.
Yeah.
Anyways, shall we learn this and do some news?
All right.
The DWAS, the Doctor Who Appreciation Society.
DWAS. No, it doesn't work. Anyway,
it doesn't. They are planning to honour the first Doctor, William Hartnell, with one of those very prestigious Blue Heritage plaques, which is awesome news.
It's brilliant. Yeah.
Isn't it, for fans of Hartnell?
I'm very pleased. Yeah.
They've done it a couple of times already. So they've done it with John Pertwee. They did this a couple of years ago. Do you remember they did an event as well? They invited
Clarity Day.
That was it, yeah.
Yeah.
So they did that for Pertwee over at the Wimbledon Theatre. Yep. And they also did it for Verity Lambert as well over at the Riverside Studios a couple of years prior to that. And they're essentially planning to do the same thing for William Hartnell. So they're going to try and get some funds together to do it at Ealing Studios in West London, which is a perfect fit, obviously, for this. So the reason why they're doing it at Ealing is because a lot of the Ealing was used loads throughout the 60s for lots of filming for Who. But it was also where they filmed the first shot, I believe, over at Ealing for the series. It was the very last one where where the TARDIS is kind of in that sort of deserty, rocky landscape, and then you see the shadow of one of
big shadow. That's
sort of looming into the shot. So that's where they filmed that. So it's a really fitting sort of place to put his plaque, which is cool. And in previous years, I'm guessing they're going to do it the same way, where they'll do some kind of fundraising thing to get, because it's not cheap at all to do this. You need to apply for things and get permission, and then you actually have to fund the event, which I'm sure they're going to do the same way they did with Pertwee, and the actual plaque itself and all that stuff. So they've said that in the next few weeks or months they're going to announce plenty of ways that people can join in and raise money to do it, and they want everybody to take part in the fundraising so that they can get it all done properly. And they've said that every fan that helps raise funds will enter a competition to win tickets to the unveiling, which will take place in the company of friends, colleagues and family of Hartnell.
Fantastic.
Nice. Yeah. So if you want to keep up to date with this one, you need to go over to the DWAS website. And also they've got a Facebook page as well. But if you just go to dwasonline.co.uk, there are details over there for it, and you can stay up to date with what's happening. And they've also got a Twitter account and all that stuff. So we'll report when there are stuff, when things are happening, when stuff's going out that you can get involved in. But even so, this will be a really cool event to try and get to. If you're in the UK or in the Southeast and get into London, it'll be very cool. So, yeah, I love this.
I'm absolutely thrilled about this, mate. I'm really genuinely thrilled to read this, because I love Hartnell's Doctor, and I like Hartnell as an actor. He does some great films as well. And I just think, like you just said, it's the perfect place to have a blue plaque for him as well. Ealing Studios, just brilliant. Mm-hmm. The only thing I wasn't sure was, I always thought Ealing Studios was sort of closed off to the public, and I don't know if I've never been there, so I don't know why I'm thinking that. I could be completely wrong, but I'm assuming it'll be somewhere where the general public can actually see it. It won't just be closed off. But yeah, I'm very excited about the fact there could be an event there, because I went to Polarity Day for Pertwee, and that was great. They had Katie Manning, John Levine, Richard Franklin, and and they showed some classic episodes from Pertwee, on a big screen, and it was a great event, really wonderful atmosphere as well. So if they do anything similar to that for this, it'd be brilliant actually.
Very cool.
So I have to keep an eye on that, I think. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you what, just talking about Twitch earlier, I've noticed Hartnell's getting a lot more love from fans since Twitch. I think a lot of people watched Twitch and discovered Hartnell perhaps for the first time, or maybe they got to really get into his Doctor, because I've noticed he always seemed to be overlooked, we've said, a lot of the time. And I just noticed a lot of sort of first Doctor fans seem to have popped up since Twitch. On Twitter, I'm basing this on a lot of people, so it's great to see Hartnell getting some love.
Very cool,
brilliant. Right, on to other news. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. Series 11 has wrapped. Principal photography finished on the 3rd of August, which was last Friday. So it's all done. It's in the can, ready to be edited and spruced up, and music's put all over it, and special effects galore, and it's all there ready to hit our screens in whenever. But yeah, it's officially wrapped. The BBC told us. They put up a nice picture of a clapperboard with "That's a Wrap" written on it, and a big rainbow flag and stuff. So yeah, very cool, mate. We now know that Series 11 is almost upon us.
Almost. It feels like a very big milestone, doesn't it? Because it feels like, because I remember when you and I were talking on whichever episode it was back in when we first got the news in that Chibnall was taking over and there would be a new everything and all that stuff, and we said at the time, that will fly by, before you know it, the new series will be on and everything. But I must admit, mate, it does feel like a bloody age since we spoke about that. And we haven't got any Doctor Who on the TV yet. So it does feel like a cool milestone that you can tick off, and we're almost there.
I agree with you, actually, normally, because I think Series 10, we were like, it seems like ages away, and then it seemed like before we know it was on our screens. This one, I will agree, it does feel like ages ago. And I suppose it's only Christmas, isn't it, that we got Twice Upon a Time. So it's, it's less than a year, but it does. I think the anticipation for this, maybe it's just because they've been so tight with the sort of spoilers and stuff and everything that they've kept everything so under wraps. I suppose it's which we both like, but yeah, it does feel like an age since Jodie was announced already.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But good news though. Good news that nothing's been delayed or they were behind schedule. I'm not sure what the schedule was, but it's good news that we're in August. And they filmed, because I think if we were getting into September and they were still filming, that probably wouldn't bode too well with getting it out in because I think September or October is being touted as the potential month that this is going to go out, isn't it?
I didn't realise they cut it so fine with the filming there, because I always assumed I would have thought this would have wrapped a good few months before it airs. I don't know. It still seems a little close to the bone, So it'll probably air perhaps next month, and they've only just finished filming, so they'll be editing and all that right up until the last minute. It still feels a bit tight to me, but maybe that's what TV schedules are like. I always thought they filmed these things well in advance.
I think it depends. I mean, I think I'm assuming anyway that all of the visual effects and everything will be well underway, and that'll all be getting done. So I think it will just be a case of Chibbers and some other people sitting down and doing the edit and getting it all tight and looking good. So yeah, it's awesome news though.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
Just brings it a bit closer to us.
Yes. And talking of Chibbers keeping everything on lockdown and so on, a final piece of news is a very small update on the the BBC over in the US trying to pursue the mole, the whistleblower. A couple of weeks ago, we told you guys that the BBC was in the throes of tracking down whoever leaked this small clip from series 11. It is 11, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
And we got a small update. So this is BBC Worldwide, by the way. This is not BBC in Cardiff or anything like that. On the 2nd of August, we told you, obviously, that they filed for a subpoena to try and find out who leaked the stuff. And we got a couple more details. So what they're trying to do is they're nagging Microsoft, essentially. And yeah, you've heard of, anyone that's sort of tech savvy will have heard of these online sort of cloud drives, things like Dropbox and OneDrive and Google Sheet, Google Drive, all that stuff. So Microsoft version, OneDrive, apparently this is where the clip was when it was shared. So somebody's OneDrive account, there was an image, a video file, so img_i563.trim.mov was apparently put out online from this OneDrive account. So what they're trying to do is get Microsoft to reveal the details of that user for that drive, which will obviously then... It's a bit of a Sherlock Holmes thing, It's a bit of a sort of, follow the breadcrumbs and hopefully you get to your suspect. So what's happening is the subpoena that they've requested doesn't need to be approved by any sort of judge or anything. All that needs to happen is the paperwork, if you like, just needs to be checked over, and if it's all correct, then they can go ahead. So it seems like a fairly straightforward thing, but I think like most things that you read about in the press and whenever these things happen I think it's just time. I think it just takes time for the legal system to put paperwork through and all that stuff. But it seems like they are getting a little bit closer than where we were before, because when we reported this, I think it was the last episode, I think, or the one before that, I think it was just, the BBC have gone to court and that was it. So we have a few more details, but it's they're definitely on the right course to track down this naughty person. But then again, you don't know where this clip has come from, because naughty person just could be a middleman for whoever it came from.
Like you said, it's breadcrumbs, isn't it? I hope whoever did leak it is absolutely bricking it right now. I hope they're really like, oh, you know what? And I really hope they catch them as well, because what will happen if they do though? Is it a fine? Is it? I don't know. What's the?
Absolutely, yeah. It's if naughty person gets caught, then it's if naughty person gets caught, it's well, I'm assuming it's a case of theft, copyright infringement, and all the rest of it. So, because well, and also I think it's just the same thing. Like, if people get caught for pirating movies and stuff, it's it's all those things. Well, you would think that they would bring down a heavy fist to make an example of them. So if anyone else is planning on doing a similar thing.
Well, this is it. I hope they catch them. I hope they get massively fined or whatever. And I hope it discourages people from doing it again. It probably won't, but I hope it does.
I hope it does too.
Yeah, because I feel quite strongly about this, to be honest with you. As anyone who listened to a few podcasts back will know, I feel quite strongly about people nicking other people's work. And I was quite cross when people were just dismissing it of, oh, it's only a little clip and we deserve it. We haven't had anything for it. No, it's theft. So yeah, I hope they catch them. I really do. And I can see Chibbers gunning for them. I bet he's like, tearing his hair out.
It's completely out of order, and hopefully they do get fined and etc. Because I think here's the thing with people who do this stuff is that they do feel like they're behind a bit of a shield almost, because they're online and there's this sort of big. Some people think there's this big grey area because they've put something out online and not physically. It makes it okay almost.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
we went through this, didn't we, when we spoke about it before? But so I think if they can sort of get legally get into the system and track them down, future people who are thinking of doing this in the future might be a bit like, no, I don't know, because they'll be able to find me and where I got it from. And so, yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
Indeed. That's going to do for news. We have got a few bits of merch though. Should we get him in, see what he's got?
Oh, yeah, Dalek Tat. He was getting a few mentions on Twitter. He'll be pleased.
Yes.
Merch corner. Merch corner. Merch corner.
I don't know whether to be impressed or disgusted.
It's a bit rubbish, but it's pretty. It's very pretty.
Doctor Who magazine. They're throwing out another one of their special editions.
Another one?
Another one. This one is called The World of Doctor Who.
Right.
The past, present and future of fandom. So this is out on, well, if you're listening to this on launch day, it was out yesterday. So Thursday the 9th of August, it hits the shelves. And apparently this is the unmissable guide that explores how Doctor Who fandom has evolved throughout the decades into the global phenomenon it is today.
Right.
And it has a beginner's guide to conventions. Oh, brother.
Mm-hmm.
The Web of Time, Doctor Who on the Internet, and Club Class, The Dawn of Fandom, by the people who were there.
Who were there? Oh, am I there?
I've seen some of your very old photos of when you met.
Yeah, I know.
Tom and
Tom
Davis.
Baker. Yeah.
So you were one of the early.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't asked to be in this. I feel
you were a trailblazer.
feel wounded.
I was going to say, shall we speak to DWM Tweets and find out what the heck's going on over there?
I'm probably too old to be in it now. I think you have to be under 21.
Now.
I
Keep
jest.
the gloves
I
up.
jest.
But yes, I'll skip this one. What about you?
I must admit, the thing is, I used to really like these Doctor Who specials that the magazine did, because they used to come out quite infrequently.
Yes.
So you'd get like 4 a year, which was nice because it means they were special. You can't just keep throwing them out every other week and call it a special, because it's not. Like this feels like about the 20th special in like the last few months. They've been doing loads of these things. I don't know. It's not really grabbing me. I'll have a flick through it in Smith's when it comes out. I'll probably pick it out. It's got a nice picture of Tennant holding the cover. Yeah, I'll have a flick through it in Smith's to see what it's like. I think, what was the last one they did? Because I remember thinking, well, I won't be getting that. And then I had a flick through, and it wasn't that bad actually. I can't think what it was now. It was a lot better than I was expecting, because I remember a bit like this. I was thinking, I won't be getting that. And then it wasn't too bad actually. But I don't know.
The last one that I got, it might be the one that you got as well. It was like the behind the scenes. It was like a visual effect.
The shelf.
Yeah, it was. It had Matt Smith and Clara on the motorbike on the cover.
That's it.
That's the last one I got.
Yeah, it might be that one. Yeah, because I think that is the one I'm thinking of, where I was thinking, oh dear, scraping the barrel. But actually, it was not bad.
It was cool, actually. Yeah, that's a good read.
Yeah. So maybe this one will be the same. But it just, as I said, my main issue with it is how many specials they're putting out at the minute. It's hard to keep up with, and it's not good for your bank balance.
No, it's to me, this one, it seems like it's going to be a bit thin on the ground with content-wise. There's only so much you can write about how fandom has come from, the early days, if you like, through to what it is now, that you haven't read or heard about before. And also, it made me laugh earlier. The previous editor, Tom Spilsbury, he put on Twitter earlier that he was very tongue-in-cheek, but put out that they had cropped him out of the photo, because this photo on the front of David Tennant holding the magazine. Yeah. The original photo is he's standing right next to Tom Spilsbury.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. And obviously they've cropped him out, because you don't want Tom Spilsbury on the cover with Tennant.
No.
Maybe you do. I don't know if you're a fan of Tom, but it was funny that he tweeted the DWN tweets and said, "Oi, why have you cropped me out?"
Yeah, he's been replaced by a picture of a TARDIS. At least they got the right TARDIS, from what I can tell. So bonus points for that.
Hey, do you know what? That's a minefield at the minute.
It is, isn't it?
For some reason, fair play to BBC. I don't know who it is, but fair play to the BBC or BBC Studios or BBC Worldwide or BBC America, whoever it is, fair play to them for their branding over the last year that we've spoken about. They've really unified everything. And if you want to get into the argument of new logo on classic stuff, we can, we'll talk about that till the cows come home. But overall, branding has been awesome. However, why the heck can they not get the correct TARDIS on most things these days?
I know, it's weird, isn't it?
It's a minefield.
It is.
And it's becoming a bit of a challenge now for Who fans, because every time something cool comes out, like a new cover for something or whatever it might be,
or whatever,
it's the first thing you do is, right, have they got the correct TARDIS for the Doctor or the story?
Yeah.
Crikey Moses.
Well, I think they have. It's hard to tell.
I think they have. It looks like
I think they've got the right one. Yeah. I think they've got the right one. Right, cool. In other news, and this is great news, talking to Photoshop, actually, I'll get onto it in a minute, talking about the picture that goes with this. But some great news from Big Finish regarding the Fourth Doctor. He's returning to E-Space.
Yay.
It's all good. It's just that they're not coming out for a while. So they've just announced that there's some new sets coming out, starring Tom Baker, Lala Ward, and Matthew Waterhouse. Oh, and John Leeson as well as K9. So the original team back together on Big Finish, going back to E-Space. So there's 2 new sets coming out, but they're not coming out till 2020 and 2021.
What?
Yeah, I know. So you can pre-order them now, but they're not out for a little while yet.
Crikey.
So hold tight, it says, for more adventures in E-Space. Volume 1 is due for release in January 2020 and features Purgatory 12 by Mark Platt and Chase the Night by Jonathan Morris. And then Volume 2 is coming out in February 2020. It said 2021, didn't it? Anyway, and that's The Planet of the Witches by Alan Barnes and The Quest of the Engineer by Andrew Smith. So some good writers actually doing this as well. So what was the Series 9 will be released in January and February 2020, with Series 10 then is going to follow in January and February 2021.
That's right. Yeah.
They put up a great picture of Tom, Matthew, Lala and John Leeson all in a line, and it's a great picture actually. They're all happy and smiley and that, but I think, as a lot of people have pointed out, they've done a great job with the Photoshop, haven't they? They're not in the same room. There's no way they've recorded together. They will have done it in separate studios and mixed it, but it's a nice photo of them all that they've managed to put together. I remember talking to Paul McGann about that actually. I said to him how much I enjoyed his stories with Sheridan Smith. I said, I love the Eighth Doctor adventures with Lucy Bleeding Miller. They're great. I said, you and Sheridan work so well in the studio. And he said, do you know what? A lot of the time we weren't even in the studio together. He said, because she had, she was in plays and stuff, so she'd record her stuff and I'd record mine, and they just mix them together. And I was like, really? Because they really bounce off each other in those audios. And so they obviously do a great job with the editing. And I get the feeling the same will apply to this. But yeah, it's very exciting. I think it's great. I just wish they were coming out a bit sooner, because I love this, this TARDIS team. This is fantastic. I love Tom, more Fourth Doctor and Adric as well. No matter what you think of Adric, that I think they work quite well together, especially with Lala, especially with Romana and K9. So I'm very excited about these, mate. Can't wait for them to come out. Really, don't want to wish my life away though. I don't want it to be 2021 already, but yeah, it's really cool. I wonder if they've already recorded these. I know Tom Baker says he's recorded a lot. There's a lot in the can already done, isn't there? Yeah. So, because I think he joked, I don't know if it was on the Big Finish website or somewhere else, he was sort of saying, it's really weird to think like audios will be being released, when I'm long gone, and all, because he's going on about death, doesn't he, recently? I think it's because he's perhaps getting on a bit, bless him. But yeah, he was sort of saying, it was odd to think that they'll carry on releasing them beyond the grave, I think he said. So, but it's strange. He's obviously recorded quite a lot in advance.
He has, yes. Yeah. And I would say that these have potentially already been done, or
I think they might have been,
being done now, yeah. But it's extremely good news, though, that we have Tom to look forward to up until 2021. So we have a few years worth of his cool adventures, and he is very good. We say this about all the Doctors on Big Finish, but they are very good on audio at the Big Finish, and not a bad thing either. Going back to a bit of E-Space, storyline, a bit of Series 18 action, which is not too bad.
Yeah, because these are going to pick up. I meant to say they're going to pick up from. So they'll be set in between the. Like you said, season 18. They're set between the stories State of Decay and Warrior's Gate.
Yes.
So they're actually set between those two stories, which is cool. Yeah.
Very cool. You can pre-order them now, as you said. If you go over to the Big Finish website,
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, if you go over there, as it stands currently, there's a little on the Big Finish website. They have a little panel that says news, and one of the tabs says Fourth Doctor. If you click on that, it's then got a link to Volume 1. And that's it. You can't order Volume 2 yet, or can you? I don't know. But you can pre-order them already. They're £20 for digital and $25 for the CD.
Very nice.
There we go. And lastly, for merch, this looks very cool. The Five Doctors is getting one of those snazzy television soundtrack CD releases.
Yeah.
In a similar vein to, these have been sort of popping up over the last year or so. We had the Seventh Doctor releases, didn't we, last year or beginning of this year? We had Survival and what was the other one? In the blue case.
They did Ghostlight, didn't they? Survival, Ghostlight. There was the Daleks. Was it the Daleks?
Yeah.
And
on my shelf
was it Crotons or something? I can't remember now. Yeah.
But yes, anyway, these individual soundtracks are very, very nice. And the cover for this one looks beautiful. And so it's going to be a pretty hefty set for the Five Doctors. It's going to contain 80 tracks. That's 80, which is very nice. And so the story that went out, as we know, in 1983, which is the hour-and-a-half special, wasn't it? Is predominantly a Davison era story. But the music that was composed by Peter Howe and at the Radiophonic Workshop has all been mixed. It's all got a brand new mix, basically, for this. So they decided to mix it in Dolby Surround, and then they later upgraded it to 5.1 for the DVD, blah, blah, blah. So the mix on it and the mastering is very, very good because I don't know how to phrase this, they kind of did it properly, quote unquote, with the mix and so on. So you've got literally every bit of music that was in the story is on this CD.
I'm thrilled about this. I love the music in the Five Doctors, and this kind of popped up out of nowhere, didn't it? Because it's a little while since we got those last soundtracks, and I think there was a bit of a changeover with the distributor or something. So it went a bit quiet for a while on the soundtrack front. And I love the music in the Five Doctors. I don't know about you. I really love the score for that. So to have it all is going to be great, because when the 50th soundtrack come out and you got like this mix of sort of little bits of music all put together in like a suite from the Five Doctors. I love playing that Five Doctor suite. So to have it all is really cool. And I like the cover as well. I think it might be Clayton Hickman, this cover.
It is. Yep.
Not sure.
No, it's Clayton. Yep.
It's Clayton. And somebody asked in the comments underneath this news item, said, is this going to be on vinyl? And the person who runs the website has said, yeah, it will be. So I don't know how they know that. So it looks like we'll be getting a vinyl issue of that as well, which would be cool.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah.
They're also releasing the soundtrack the same day for The Invasion as well. I'll be honest, it's so long since I've watched The Invasion, I can't remember the music from that.
No,
so,
I can't. No.
I imagine it'll be more sort of sound effects and things on that one. So I'll probably get both, to be honest, because it'd be interesting to hear. But Five Doctors one, I can't wait. I got a bit worried actually, because when they first announced this on the news page, it didn't have a UK release. It was just a US release of the CD, and it was only literally, I think, 2 days ago that it finally come up. Yes, you can also pre-order it in the UK now. And I was like, phew. It's like, I really want to get this. Yeah, September it's out, isn't it?
It's not confirmed.
Right.
But people are saying it should be September.
Fantastic.
You can order it from Amazon at the moment, and it's $13.99.
It's all right. It's not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, for 80 tracks of music, it's really, really cool.
I just keep hearing the Cybermen bit in my head. Dun, 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 dun.
It really is a an awesome soundtrack for that. It's a beautiful piece. I often listen to it like you. I listen to it a lot. When I listen to that 50th anniversary set, I always go to this bit. It's very cool.
Because you can picture the scenes while you listen to that, can't you? Like the Bessie being chased, that manic music, and then you've got the sort of minds where they join the minds together and all that. It's brilliant. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Very good.
So that's going to do for merch. On to our review.
Yes.
Are we ready to be kind of upgraded?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I knew this is going to be an interesting one. So yeah, Torchwood this week, back to the Torchwood reviews, and this week it is Cyberwoman.
What's down here?
Normally, nothing. Who are you?
Human point 2. The army will be rebuilt from here.
This is a fight to the death. We do whatever is necessary to destroy her. That thing is not human, clear? This ends here. I'm sorry.
Torchwood continues Sunday at 10 on BBC Three.
BBC Three, eh?
BBC Three, yes. Good old BBC Three.
Indeed. Rightio, Cyberwoman. It was out originally on the 5th of November, 2006.
Remember.
Indeed. It's bonfire night, isn't it? Yes. Did this go up in flames?
Or did it just whimper like one of those Catherine wheels that never gets started?
Not many people would have been in the UK on the 5th of November.
I wouldn't have thought so.
Anyways. It was directed by James Strong, written by Chris Chibnall.
Yeah, there's a name that sounds familiar.
Indeed. And it stars the usual Torchwood crew from Series 1. So Captain Jack, Lanto, Gwen, Owen, and Tosh. And the story is thus. It kind of links into Army of Ghosts and Doomsday from the Doctor Who main show. Mm. And one of the people who was meant to be upgraded, Lanto saves her. And she's only been partially upgraded. And he thinks it's a brilliant idea to smuggle her into the hub at Torchwood and create a secret underground base that nobody knows about. And decides that he's going to bring in this sort of expert on robotronics or robotics, whatever, to try and save her, essentially, to degrade or downgrade from her Cyberwoman augmentations and so on, because her mind is still as Lisa, the character name, and Lanto thinks there's a good chance that she could potentially be saved, but all hell breaks loose when her cyber side sort of kicks in, and she goes on a bit of a murdering spree and decides that the hub is a great place to set up camp and get the army built up again from there. So, what do you think to this one, Adam?
Well, just going back slightly, I was there when this first went out and I watched it. So I don't know what I was doing on Firewalk Night back then, but I do remember watching this when it went out. I remember thinking it was all right at the time. I thought, yeah, that's all right. And then there's sort of over the years, it's got this reputation of being really bad, doesn't it? People really hate it. I think I've watched it once since it aired, which was years ago. So I didn't have very clear memories of it. Went into it, it was fairly fresh last night to give it a rewatch and make some notes for today. And it hasn't aged very well. I think it starts off pretty good because I think for the first sort of 5, maybe 10 minutes, I was thinking, this isn't too bad. Like it's not great, but why does this get such a bashing? I was sort of thinking about 10 minutes in, it was all, the action was kicking in. I thought, yeah, it's all right. But for me, this episode just gradually gets worse and worse as it goes on. So I think it starts off all right, but it just literally loses it for me. And by the end of it, when I switched it off, I was like, Man, that was not great. That was not good. I found the ending really unsatisfying, to be honest. The way it was wrapped up, and there were so many things that I thought didn't really make sense as well that bugged me all the way through as I was watching, and I'll just get one of them out of the way straight away. The fact that Lanto's managed to sneak this into Torchwood, where they've got cameras everywhere. I know he's sort of in charge, so he could probably erase the footage, but he's managed to hide a Cyberwoman in Torchwood base, and it just didn't really make any sense at all, really. And also, it seems to only be one level down. I just didn't get that, and the whole Cyberwoman conversion thing kind of is odd. So yeah, I don't know. And then the ending, as I said, the sort of final of it. There's all this big build up between him and Jack and the trust issue because he's done this behind their back. And I'm thinking Jack would have thrown him out. It'd have been retconned. Is that what they call it? Where they erase the memory? Is it retcon? It'd have been retconned and out of there. And yet it ends with him sort of tidying the base like a scolded T-boy. And, Jack wouldn't have had any of that. If it broke all these rules and done all this stuff, Lanto would have been out of there and gone. I mean, that's only the start of what's wrong with this episode for me. But yeah, overall, I didn't think it was great. I didn't think it's as bad as some people say. I think it's watchable. I wasn't bored. I was sort of more like sort of cringing really at a lot of it. So yeah. So it's not brilliant. I don't think it's quite as bad as people make out, but I don't think it's that great either. Yeah. And there were bits of it that really did bug me.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not a massive fan of this one. I think it's probably the worst episode so far that we've got to in series 1. I think. Yeah. Because what was the one with the lovemaking alien? That was pretty bad. But I think this is certainly on par with that, and maybe just slightly worse. Mainly because of the ending. For me, it kind of really dropped down when I was going to score it. The last 10 minutes just really brought this down score-wise for me.
Oh, Rija. Okay. Yeah, it's a troubled story, this one, isn't it? Because I think the idea is okay.
Yeah.
The concept for the story about having sort of a half human, half cyber person that could maybe be saved or is, on the fence. Could they go cyber? Could they go human? And that sort of exploration into that, it can be quite cool or could be cool.
Yeah.
But I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like it was the story just didn't, it's not that it didn't grab me, it's just that I had no interest in it after about 15 minutes in, really. Because it was just so predictable, if that makes sense. It was one of those stories where as soon as, like when Lanto brought the scientist guy in, Dr. Tanizaki, into the hub to have a look, and when she was laying on the augmentation table thing, and she started speaking in her normal voice, and she recognised Lanto and like, oh, he's my boyfriend and all that stuff. I initially thought, okay, this is going to be cool. What's going to happen here? But then when she strangled the doctor and then put him on the table, he got killed, and then she started speaking in her cyber voice. From that moment on, you thought, well, she's not going to make it, is she? No. She's going to be taken out in some shape or form.
It's only going to end one way.
Exactly, yeah. And so that sort of, for me, I thought, okay, so she's, she's going to die. She's going to get either shot or blown up or... And the way that she does get taken out is, completely, surreal to me. So yeah, it's a troubled story because it has when we've reviewed lots of Doctor Who episodes on this show, sometimes it's one of those things where the idea is very good, and the concept is amazing, but the execution and the way it's, portrayed to us as the viewer is just it just trips itself up sometimes. And I feel like this one also, it didn't make up its mind what it wanted to be at times, because it was a bit of a love story, like a sort of a doomed love story on one hand. And on the other hand, it was very, very action paced, and when Captain Jack and the others are sort of, when they discover that there is not that they discover that there's a cyber person in the hub, but when they just discover that someone's broken in and stuff, they all sort of spring into action, and it's very military style sort of action, and lots of shooting and shouting and plans being put into place. And then on the other hand, you've got Lanto sobbing like a bloody baby throughout the entire thing. So it sort of flits between the two. It's like an action-based military, typical, almost like a unit style story, where you don't really, the other characters in Torchwood to me, so Jack and the others, not Lanto, but the others, they didn't seem to exhume much of with the exception of Tosh in a couple of places, they didn't really exhume sort of much of a personality. They were just sort of paint by numbers. Yeah. To me, if you like. Yeah. So, I mean, there's, quite a few things there are some positives to it though. There are a couple of good things. So like I said, the idea and the concept are very good. I like the fact that it's completely ridiculous and unrealistic anyway. But I like the fact that Lanto's got like a secret project or something secret going on, because he does actually have it out, doesn't he, with Captain Jack at one point, where he says, you know nothing about me or my life. You guys never ask about me, and this is important to me. So I like the fact that they've finally, because for the last few episodes since the start when we've been recording it, Lanto's always been like the butler, or like, the tea boy.
He's hardly been in it, yeah.
Yeah, the tea boy. So it's good that we finally see a little bit more of Lanto. And it's cool that he has his own thing. He's not just the receptionist for Torchwood, if you like.
Yeah.
So that's quite cool. Like I said, ludicrous as it is that he managed to get all of that equipment in there and get it all wired up and actually sneak her in and all the rest of it. It's, it's a bit far-fetched in the world of Torchwood.
It would have been far better, wouldn't it, if he would had hidden her out somewhere in like a remote building, and then the action all took place. It's just, it's probably a budget thing. Maybe they had to do it in the Torchwood set, but it would have been so much better if they'd have sort of, picked up that Lanto was acting a bit odd and followed him, and he's got this hidden away somewhere, somewhere else, and more of a threat to Earth as well then, because she could escape, and they could have had it that she was sort of in an underground bunker and she mustn't get out, otherwise it could have been much better, because like you said, there is a good idea in there, isn't there? And actually, I mean, that's one of the things that really worries me about this, is the fact it's written by Chris Chibnall, and is our new showrunner, and the writing, I think, especially some of the dialogue, is really pretty ropey. And apparently the initial concept for this story was actually it was actually Russell T Davies who came up with the original concept of this idea, so you can't even give Chibbers credit for that, really. So that worries me slightly, because I was thinking the other day, there's not much of Chibbers stuff that I actually really like. I can't think of any Doctor Who story of his that I really like. I really don't think the writing's very good in this one, so there's a slight concern when it comes to Series 11. I've got to be completely honest with you. He doesn't fill me with confidence as a writer. Judging by this and the other stuff he did, like Dinosaurs on a Spaceship and all that, I'm sort of thinking, God, I really hope he ups his game. Because, I mean, actually, I can think of one thing I liked of his, which is Broadchurch, which is totally different. It's a good, great series that was. But but it did. I kept thinking all the way through, Chibbers, mate, Chibbers, what are you doing? Some of the dialogue in this was really ropey as well. There was some really cheesy lines coming out. And there's one bit, I may as well mention it now actually while I'm think of it, because it really did. I just groaned like so much, was when Owen and Gwen are hiding in the sort of cabinet or whatever it is. Yeah. And they have this kiss, and I was just like, why? What? So unnecessary. Just so, it's the sort of thing the Moffat would do. Oh, they're trapped in a room. I know. Let's have them kiss. I mean, they're about to be killed, but let's have them kiss. And yeah, there was a few bits like that in this, so I just really groaned. I was like, come on, this is like, this is not good writing.
I know. I know. It's difficult because we always try and see like the positives in certain stories that are viewed by fandom as very poor. or very bad. And even ourselves, if we think something's not very good, we do try and find or weasel out the positives. But for certain stories, and this is one of them, it can be a bit testing to do that.
I mean, looking at my list, I don't have many positives. I will give you one, actually.
Go on then.
Was I did think the direction was nice. I thought the episode was shot quite well, actually. Like, there was lots of use of the water in the base, the hub, to reflect onto the Cyberwoman, and it gave some really nice shots. And also when because a lot of this, it does evolve into one long chase sequence.
It does.
About sort of 20 minutes in, it's just 10 minutes of running around chasing, which again gets really monotonous. So I will say, on the plus side, I thought the direction was very good, because there's some good shots of her, like sort of through, sort of almost like seeing their view of her. So sort of you see her moving through the set, and I thought, there's a bit of imagination gone into how they've shot her, trying to actually track them down and hunt them down, sort of thing. I did think the direction was good by James Strong. It's one of the positives I made, and I thought it sort of looked quite nice, apart from the awful bird creature at the end. It's really dated, isn't it? And I hated that as a conclusion. As I said, sorry to go negative again, but when they decided that was the way they were going to defeat it, I was just like, what the hell, man? They just leave it to be pecked to death by a giant. What's he supposed to be?
It's a pterodactyl, isn't it?
Pterodactyl.
Yeah, it's called Mephanwe.
Yeah. I mean, that just, again, I had let out a bit of a groan there. And obviously that's not the conclusion, because then the poor old pizza girl goes in. And I was like, oh no, not the pizza girl. And I thought she was going to get out alive. I couldn't remember what happened to her, but somehow in the space of 2 minutes, Cyberwoman converts her brain into the pizza girl.
Yeah.
And that's, as I said, that's just where the score just dropped off, because I was like, how the hell did she do that? And she's just got this sort of stitching on her head, and otherwise she looks perfectly normal. That's just where it lost it for me. The realism and everything just went out the window. I
know, mate. I know. Yeah. It's confusing in a way, because I assume that Chris Chibnall and Russell T Davies, like every other film or TV maker, wants to try and make the best sort of show that they can make. And it's confusing in a way that when this was done, I would just love to have been, because they're not unintelligent guys, and they clearly know what's good television and what's bad television. So it would have been really interesting once they had seen the final episode, once it's been edited together and so on, if they just sort of put their face in their hands and were like, what the heck have we just watched? Because unless you're sort of in the zone, is the best way I can describe it. If you're sort of in the zone and you think you're making like amazing TV and you think it's all good because you're in the hype of it when you're making it at the time and all that stuff. I don't know, but it's kind of confusing because, you've got two of the best writers in television, Chibnall and Russell, who are sort of working together on this. They must have been. Because this was the actual concept and the story behind having a cyber person that was born out of those Army of Ghosts and Doomsday stories. That was Russell T Davies' idea. He really wanted to do that. And so he would have worked with Chibbers a lot and quite closely, I would have thought, on this. So it's kind of at odds with reality to me. You have two of the best creators in TV and the best writers who have turned out, potentially one of the poorest stories in the whole of Torchwood. So I don't know. It's kind of, it just doesn't feel real. I think it's
probably, for me, I think it's one of the most disappointing things we've reviewed. I don't remember sort of feeling like this about many of the stories you cover. As I said, I've very little positive to say about it. And I think that's quite rare. Like you said, normally, even with stuff like Time Flight, and stuff like that, we can see the good and bad in it and see where they've gone. And there are redeeming features. With this, there's very little redeeming features. And I think one of the biggest disappointments is the cast, actually. Because, sometimes when you get a bad story, the cast managed to make something of it.
True, yeah.
And with this, it's nice to get to see a bit more of Lanto, because we've hardly seen him. So we get to explore a bit more about his character. And we find out that he had this girlfriend who's been half cybertized, and that's, like you said, quite an interesting start right there. But then the rest of the cast, so we get giggly Torchwood at the beginning, and it's the sort of, like when you say a cast is gelling really well at this point, like Sarah Jane, we've said, haven't we, by episode sort of 2, 3, the cast are just really gelling brilliantly. The cast in this, so this is episode 4 now, is it, of Torchwood?
Yes.
Yeah. The cast are not gelling naturally to me. It feels really forced. That scene where they're all giggling and joking down at the bar and it's so over the top. Do you know what I mean? It's not natural like it is with the Sarah Jane team. You feel like Sarah Jane is very motherly towards, the kids and stuff. It feels right. This, it just feels like, now we're going to go in 2 seconds, giggle on cue. Giggle now. You're all happy. Oh, yeah, we're down the bar. We're Torchwood. Oh, Jack, you're so funny. It just, the cast are just not working for me at all as a team at this point. I think, from my memory, I think they must get better, because I remember liking Torchwood. So it must improve.
They do.
It will do. But to me, it just, even the cast were just not holding this together for me, especially in those scenes at the start where they're all supposed to be having a laugh. It just didn't feel like the cast were on top of their game in this one. We'll go through the cast members actually, so I'll hold back on what I was about to say. But
yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm on the same page as you, buddy. It's I found a lot of the dialogue. We'll come on to 2 characters in particular that I thought might surprise you, actually, that I thought were quite poor in this. But I thought, that's why I mean it's very surprising that you have RTD and Chibbers who have put this out there, who, as we've seen over the years, and hopefully we'll see in Series 11.
I hope so.
Especially Russell, one of the great, his character, and that's why it's so surprising, because he's so good. How many times have I said on this show that Russell T Davies is one of the best writers for characters?
Yeah.
So for building characters and making sure that they're not sort of forced in your face, but they have just enough little backstory in there to get you gripped, and then he progresses them so well over a short space of time, like 45 minutes, whatever. And then you got Chibbers, who is just brilliant also, like you mentioned with Broadchurch and some of the other things he's wrote related to Doctor Who. It's just so surprising that the two of them have put something so mediocre out of Torchwood. That's why I say it's surreal. It's almost like someone's playing a prank somewhere, where they've taken this amazing, brilliant story that they've written for a cyber person, but they've just locked it away, and I'll tell you what it feels like. It feels like Chibbers and RTD have wrote this amazing, brilliant story, but it got flushed down the toilet, or, it got, lost in a tornado somewhere. And then they've got like a day to get the script done again, because they're shooting tomorrow. So somebody's just gone, right, I think I remember that person saying that. And I think that person said that. Let's just cobble this. That's what it feels like.
Cobbled together
from this amazing first draft, but it's just been lost somewhere, and at the 11th hour somebody's had to cobble together what they remember from reading the script a month ago. I'm trying to just
I get where you're coming
from.
Yeah. Talking of cobbled together, what do you think of the costume that she has to wear? Because a lot of is made of that, isn't it? They've tried to let's not beat around the bush. They've tried to sexualize the Cyberwoman, haven't they?
Of course they have, and it's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And one of the when they were making Torchwood, this particular story, one of the things that was very poignant for them is that they wanted to make the Cyberwoman the most sexiest Cyberwoman that you've seen before. That was their mission, if you like. Their mission wasn't, right, let's try and make a more realistic looking person that's been sort of half augmented but is still half human. Let's try and make it like this real sexy, shiny, and I think that's one of the big tripping up points, is because when you try and make a character very sexy, there has to be some kind of reason for that. A Cyberwoman who's just been sort of half upgraded doesn't automatically turn out to be this real sexy looking, custom made, half robot person.
Yeah.
It's a horrific, horrible experience.
I actually felt very sorry for the actress because she's wearing this suit which doesn't really leave much to the imagination. And the bits that got me, and this comes back to, I think, one of the problems with Series 1 of Torchwood is how they think they've got to do stuff because it's an adult show. So it's a bit like, it's a bit like schoolboys. Oh, come on, what can we get away with? Lots of swearing. They really upped the gore factor in this one as well. Sometimes a bit too much. I mean, how many times did they show that face of the professor with the eye? It's like, yeah, we get it. He's cut to ribbons, and they keep showing it. But the costume as well. That there's a bit where the professor gropes the breasts on the costume and stuff. And I was like, just why? Like, I felt really sorry for the actress having to be groped and wear that stupid costume, which basically doesn't cover anything, and. Yeah, I just thought it was, again, trying to be adult, but actually coming across as immature.
I read you.
Yeah. If you know what I mean.
No, yeah. I mean, it's probably something that you and I will mention a few more times as we go through the rest of Series 1, that it almost felt like, as you said, it's like we have the opportunity to be a little bit rude, a bit cheeky, so let's make the most of it. I use this reference a lot with things like this, and it's like the Dr. Malcolm of this, because that famous scene in Jurassic Park where he says, your scientists never stopped to think whether they could do this. They didn't stop to think whether they should.
Yeah.
So they Dr. Malcolmed it. It's like, you guys have got the opportunity, yes, to throw in the odd swear word and do a bit of sexy here and there. But it's like you're doing it for the sake of doing it because you've been told you can.
Yeah, exactly.
And you haven't stopped to think about, well, actually, does it fit the story? No, it doesn't at all. It doesn't.
There is the F word, I think, is used towards the end, isn't it? I think Lanto uses the F word at the end, doesn't he? I'm sure he does when they're going up on the stone pillar. I'm sure he swears at Jack. I can't remember what he says. I think, here we go. So we've got the gore, we've got the costume. Now we've got the swearing. Tick, tick, tick. Yeah, like you said, none of it feels natural. It's like, what can we get away with? I said, it just feels a bit immature to me. But just felt very sorry for the actress. I really, I don't know why, but I really take offence to the bit where the professor groped her boobs. It just,
it's just not needed, is it?
It's not needed, and he's supposed to be this intelligent, But it just, I don't know why, it just really got me. I was like, as soon as he did it, I was like, oh, come on, you're better than that. Is the way I would put it. You're better than that. You don't need to do that.
Yeah, you can see why they got him to. Well, you can see why he's doing that, because he's just so in awe.
I get everything. What he's supposed to be doing.
And it's like Candyland.
He's like grabbing her thighs as well and stuff, and it's just like, come on.
That's why I say it doesn't fit, because he's meant to be like this sort of doctor that's a world specialist in this stuff, and you can see he's like he's won the lottery almost. He's like, oh my god, this is like the most amazing thing, and he's almost passes out with how in awe he is of everything, and you can see he's sort of examining what's going on, but it's the way that he purposefully gropes and
he's
stuff.
Really pervy.
It just
and again, I've got to put the foot of the blame at Chibbers for writing this, because it's the sort of thing the Moff would do. The Moff comes out with these rude, like the scene with Missy and the Master when he's like, should I be excited? And like, oh, we don't need gags like that in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And I can see Chibbers writing this. Oh, the Doctor caresses her thighs and he grabs her metal boobs, and it's like, come on, Chibbers, you're not a 16-year-old writing a. Grow up.
And you're absolutely right, because I think this does lead back to Chibbers a little bit, because not only did he write this, but he's credited as co-producer as well. So he would have actually had a fairly decent say on how this was put together and how it was viewed afterwards. So, yeah, man. And going back to the costume as well, I think this is the crux of the story to me in terms of why it fails. Is because of this costume and the Cyberwoman character. I think this is where it all falls down. I mean, the two main things for me is Yanto's character and how he managed to get everything into Torchwood and do all that stuff. That's the first thing. But the main thing for me where it all falls down is the Cyberwoman character and the way she looks, because she's meant to be like this sort of tortured victim of the Cybermen. She's meant to be mentally and physically just torn to shreds by the Cybermen, this sort of half upgraded, half augmentation thing. So she's meant to be, completely just shot to bits, mentally and physically. And in the same way that when she throws the Doctor onto the thing and he gets like torn to shreds, doesn't he? And some part of him has had like Cybermen bits shoved into him, and is in a way that's what she should look like. She should
look like, yeah, exactly,
because she's gone through a similar process, but they've made her look like this very end result polished product. It's almost like that was what the Cybermen wanted her to look like and be like, because she's she's finished off and well polished off and everything, So by having her look like that and having her act like that, it just completely wipes away any kind of integrity that character might have had due to the experience that she's gone through. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit like, I love my analogies, but it's a bit like, having somebody brought out on stage that's been through a horrific car crash or been through sort of, a military experience. And then you expect somebody come out missing a limb or, but they just sort of strut out in a brand new suit
or a bikini.
Yeah. And it's like, what's going on here? You're meant to have been through this horrific thing, but you look in fact, you look brilliant. What's going on? Yeah. So that's for me where it falls down. In my opinion, she should look like how that Doctor looked like after he had been shredded up and stuff. So she should be deformed and a bit grotesque and a little bit.
Because the bolt in the eyes are quite a cool. I mean, it's quite graphic, but it's a cool. You get the idea. Like you said, it's horrific. But he's half transformed, isn't he? So yeah. There's another bit. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. In the end, we just end up with this sort of love story between this very pretty little Cyberwoman who looks very sleek and sexy, and Yanto, and it just completely just wipes out any valid reason why she is the way she is.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate.
What was you going to say, Bobby?
I can't remember now.
Sorry, mate.
It wasn't important. I think I was just basically going to agree with what you were saying, really. Should we move on to the cast?
Let's move on to some cast.
Yes.
Actually, before we do that, just some story stuff, just very quickly. What did you think to because this is one of those very contained stories, and it's quite well known for being one of the cheaper stories to produce for Torchwood, because it's literally just 3 sets or 2 sets and a location. So you've got the hub, obviously, where the bulk of the action takes place, which is underneath, Roaldale's Pass, isn't it, in Cardiff?
Yes.
Yep. And then you've got the basement where Yanto puts the Cyberwoman, where all that stuff happens, which is filmed in Newport over at some big stately house somewhere, Tredegar House in Newport. So you got those 2 sets, and then the only other thing is you got the Torchwood guys down the pub. Sort of a location shoot, if
Cardiff bar, yeah.
So what did you think of having them sort of make the most of those 2 sets? Because that's literally it. That's all you see in the entire story, because they're sort of, like you said earlier, it turns into a big chase sequence for the last half. And there's only so many little nooks and crannies you can hide in within the Torchwood hub. But do you think they managed that quite well, or did you think, we could have done with a bit, because you mentioned earlier that it would have been really cool to have this happen off-site somewhere, where Yanto had smuggled her into like a location somewhere else that's not Torchwood. So that would have been quite cool.
It would have, yeah. I think it would have been better if she'd have been away from the Torchwood hub and maybe ended up there, because it does make for a good setting. You know, the Torchwood hub, and they've got all that stuff in there, and they do make a nice use of building the tension that the only way to sort of, they have to cut off all the power at one point, and they can't regenerate it for 6 hours or something ridiculous. So that adds another element to it. So in that side of it, I quite like the fact it's all set in the Torchwood hub, because there's sort of plenty to play around with, and there's also loads of things in there. You know, I mean, I can't believe out of all the technology they had in the first couple of episodes, they didn't have something that could just kill her. That, you know, I can't believe the best plan that Jack can come up with is to set the pterodactyl on her. I mean, that's what that really does bug with the hell out of it. Is that really the best plan? You've got all this stuff in the Torchwood hub, you know what I mean? So on one level, I think it works. Oh, I guess if they've cut the power, maybe they can't open the drawers. I don't know. But yeah, it's just the fact that, Yanto's managed to hide her in there all this time just doesn't make any sense to me. Well, I think it would have been really cool if she'd have been sort of hidden away in a warehouse somewhere, and it brings a slightly bigger threat, because then she's closer to the outside world. Whereas in this, she's very much contained in the hub, and like you said, it's predictable. She's never going to get out. You know, maybe if she'd have actually started walking the streets of Cardiff and was a real threat, maybe that would have added something extra to it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because I don't find her particularly frightening either. And I think that, again, comes down to the costume. You know, she just looks like a sexy Cyberwoman that's coming to get you and not moving very fast. And we've got the awful stomping thing as well. I hate the stomping, the Cybermen stomping when they make... I hate that in the modern series. So, yeah, I think it works on one level, but I would have liked to have seen a bit more out in the sticks, really. It would have made more sense, because no one picks up that Yanto's acting so strange either. It's like even before they leave the hub, he's acting really weird. And I'm thinking, why are you acting like that? You know, you're making yourself look obvious. You know, so yeah, it doesn't really work, I don't think, overall. But I think they utilised the sets quite well.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. But I really like your idea, mate, of Yanto moving her somewhere else and then have the threat sort of come across Cardiff towards the hub, and that would have been very cool.
I think, it would have been cool if he'd have, like, you know, sort of found a warehouse and he'd been sort of nicking bits from the Torchwood hub like they were in the other episodes to sort of build a unit to sustain her and keeping her hidden away, and then maybe they sort of pick up that he's, you know, what's he up to? And they follow him, and he's got this thing hidden, and oh my God, it's on the streets of Cardiff, and then back to the Torchwood hub. I don't know, it just would have made a bit more of a story of it. Whereas, like you said, in this, she's already in the hub. We know where it's going to end. So it just doesn't feel like the story goes anywhere, I suppose, in that sense. Yeah.
You know, and what do you think about the scene with Yanto and Captain Jack up on the street, where he gives Jack a bit of a right-hander and they have a bit of a to-do?
I think Jack asks for it, actually. I wanted to give him a right-hander in this one as well.
We'll come on to Jack in a minute. But that was a good scene. That was one of the positives I had down was, you know, this scene where the Cyberwoman wasn't in it. And it was the Torchwood guys, really sort of highly emotional at that point, especially Yanto. And that sort of little fisticuff argument moment between them, I thought was really good.
I think it's one of the... Yeah, I'll agree with you. I think it's one of the few scenes in it that I would say it's really good, because I do love the bit when... Yanto says to Jack, "You're the biggest monster of them all." And I loved that, because you're sort of thinking, hey, bit of underlying tension coming out here. He's been wanting to say that for a while. He's been storing that one up. So that is a good scene, actually. And also, it's interesting because apparently Chibbers I don't know why, but that line was never intended to be in it. I don't understand that. So they filmed it, but they were never intended to include it, but they left it in. And I'm thinking, well, I'm glad you did, because I think it's really interesting. You know, it sort of shows another side to Yanto, and also we're sort of thinking, why is he saying that to Jack? You know, what's Jack hiding? Why is Jack the biggest monster? And so I think it's a good, like you said, good scene, and I like that line. But, yeah,
and that when after Yanto punches him in the mouth, for the rest of the episode, Captain Jack's got a little cut on his lip.
Yes,
and everybody thought, hold on a minute, this doesn't make sense, does it? Because you know. Captain Jack sort of heals himself and can't be harmed in any way. So I think if anybody watches this on the DVD or the Blu-ray and you listen to the audio commentary track, Chibnall's on there. And he does say that they have to, for the sake of not, leaving a massive plot hole in place, they say that Captain Jack's immortal powers only conveniently deal with anything that's life-threatening. So anything that's a minor thing, like a cut or a scratch, is...
It doesn't make sense. I mean, if that's the best he can come up with.
Again, that's surprising from Chibnall. This is... I don't know.
No, I don't buy that at all.
No. Talk about some characters then. So what about Annie then, the pizza girl?
Poor old Annie. God, I can get over it. I really didn't think she was going to die, actually. I was quite shocked. I was even more shocked by the terrible explanation of having the brains transplanted in 2.5 minutes and talking perfectly like a human. It was absolutely ridiculous. But she's not a bad little side character, actually. I feel really sorry for her. She's probably... Was she in it for about a minute overall? She's probably one of the best performances in it. Because, I thought she was all right, actually. Who was the character? Bethan Walker played Annie. Yes. Yeah. No, she was all right. She just wanders in with the pizza and then gets her head chopped off and a brain put in, and it's all a bit sad.
Yes. She plays it fairly well, though.
Yeah, she's all right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I felt she was likable enough for me to feel sorry for her. Let's put it that way. Sometimes you're like, well, I don't care, but I did care about Annie, because when she was going in, I was like, no, quick, Annie's down there. Get down there, lads. Get and sort it out. Yeah.
What about the Doctor then? Dr. Tanizaki, who Yanso drafts in to try and reverse the process, played by Togo Igawa. I've seen him before. He was in a couple of things that I've seen. I think he was in the IT Crowd very briefly.
Oh, was he? Yeah.
He's been in a couple of other things, but he was in Doctor Who,
Was he?
Yeah. He was in Doctor Who. What was he? He played the Secretary General. I think it was at the Capaldi story when the pyramids, and he was one of the country's leaders. I think so. I think it was that one.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, I don't remember it, but I didn't mind his performance. Just didn't like the way he was written as this pervy old Doctor, to be honest with you. But I thought his performance was all right.
Yeah.
But I just didn't like the way they wrote that character. Just like you said, he should have been in awe of it. He should have been like, oh wow, this is amazing, which he kind of was. Just didn't need all the pervy groping and all that went with it. And again, I suppose that comes back to the costume again, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But no, he was okay in what he was given, I thought, as an actor. Yeah.
Yeah, for what he had to do, I think.
What he had to do, yeah.
Yeah. He had a very small part in The Last Jedi.
Did he?
He did. Yeah. Captain Gowitz, yeah. But no, I thought his performance was okay for what he was given. It was just the little pervy bits that we've mentioned that were a little bit... Yeah. But that's not his fault, though. I imagine he was directed to do that.
Yeah.
Okie dokie, what about the Cyberwoman then, Lisa? Caroline Chikese.
I just feel sorry for her, really. I think her performance is very average. She's sort of trying to be scary. I'm sorry to bring it back, but again, not really her fault, more the costume, because she's not bad, I suppose, under all of that. She's certainly not bad, but I never felt really threatened by her. I don't know about you. I never felt any threat particularly from her, but I think, like you said earlier, just playing it a little bit by numbers, mate. She just sort of, move around there, look menacing, grab her, just felt a little bit, But she's all right.
Yeah. I found that the couple of times when she was at her best was at the beginning, where the Doctor was there with Yanso, and she was, really sort of upset and distraught about what was happening to her. And when the Doctor first, performs that very first bit where he gets her to breathe on her own without the aid of the augmented stuff. She plays that really well when she's, scared and she's all the rest of it. But the other times, it's not. Mind you, having said that, my my wife used to watch this awful program years ago called Footballers' Wives.
No.
I know, mate. I know. And she was in that. She had a fairly decent part in that for a while. And I remember thinking, Christ, she's an awful, she's not very good at all. And then when I saw her in this, it was, she's just, she's not great anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
And in this, she's not.
She's not pushing the boundaries.
No, she does pop up again very briefly in Torchwood in the next series. Very briefly, it's the same character. But we'll come on to that.
Oh, it must be a flashback.
Yeah, when we get to our review. But no, she's not great. But a lot of it wasn't her fault. I think, as we'll come on to in our final scores, for me, the script was just not very good at all, especially for her. No. And the costumes, obviously. Awful. What about the Torchwood crew then? So Tosh, Owen and Gwen. Because those three seem to have a very similar weighted roles throughout the story. They didn't do anything amazing, but they weren't quiet either. They were, I think Captain Jack was, as expected, was the leader of the gang, obviously. But I think those three did a sort of similar thing. You obviously had Gwen and Owen, who went down initially to investigate what was going on in the basement and so on. And then you had Tosh, who was very much, trying to get the final piece of the puzzle in place. She was the one that was hacking the doors and the locks and trying to get that stuff sorted out. So, like I said earlier, it felt like they were sort of going by the numbers in terms of, it felt quite military based. Like Captain Jack issued the orders and off they went and did the thing. What do you reckon to those guys then?
Out of the three of them, I think Tosh is the best because she's sort of got stuff to do, and she's trying to get the power back online. And there's that scene where she manages to just get through that door, and then the fist comes smashing through. So she gets a bit more to do. I didn't particularly like Owen and Gwen much in this. Gwen seems to freeze at one point when I think she's been directed to freeze as if she's so frightened she can't move. Did you see that bit?
Yeah.
The Cyberwoman is coming towards her. She just stands like a rabbit in the headlights. So that's weird. And I hate the kiss. The scene where they're in the hiding from it. It's so out of place.
It is.
And I think this is one of the things that creeps in this series. And I haven't watched it for a long time, but I remember hating all this. Gwen seems to snog everybody throughout the series, and I hate it because I like Reese so much, and I like their relationship. So every time I see him snogging someone, I'm like, Gwen, come on, Reese is such a good guy, and so I really hated that between the two of them. It was as if, it just didn't need it at all. So out of the three, I like Tosh best in this one.
Yeah, I like Tosh. I think she had a good one in this.
Yeah, for what she was given. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. What about Yandor? Gareth David Lloyd.
Go
on.
No, I was going to say it's nice to finally see a bit more from him. I think he's trying a bit too hard. There's a scene where he's crying, and it's so over the top, isn't it? It's just it's not good. I think in some bits he's good. Like the scene with him and Jack. He's very good in that bit. Like you said, that scene is very good. But overall, he just seems a little bit inexperienced and not that convincing, I think.
Right.
So he's not. Again, I'm going to put him a bit on par. His performance is on par. I think everybody's on par in this story. In terms of their performance, he just doesn't. He's given a lot to do, but I'm not sure he quite steps up to the plate. If that makes sense. He's not as good as he could be.
Yeah, I read you. I found him just a bit of a wet blanket, really.
Yes, that's it. That's what
you can understand from his point of view what he's going through. So you can understand that he's upset, obviously. But for me, I found the scenes where he's not crying his eyes out, and he did do a lot of crying in this story. It seems like every time he's on screen, he's sobbing.
He's got a real sort of face. Ooh,
his cry face is not very good, is it?
Cry face, yeah.
But I found the scenes where he's more angry. I thought he was better in those, like the scene we mentioned with Jack, and also when he's really sort of angry. He wants to get back down to the basement before he bumps into the pizza girl. He wants to get back down there and see if he can save her still, and he's quite determined. And so I think those scenes he's actually pretty good. But because he does so much crying and sobbing throughout the whole thing. Like I said, in a way you understand, but after a while you just think, oh, for God's sake, pull yourself together, man.
Pull yourself together, man. Yeah, exactly.
And, so and his cry face is not very good. And he's just not, I mean, like you said, it's good that we finally get to see a bit of an insight into Lanto, because we find out that he actually has a girlfriend, obviously, and she worked at Torchwood 1 in London, and we got a bit of backstory there. So that was all quite good, and we don't just see somebody making tea and ordering pizza. So that's all good. But what we did see of him was just a blubbering mess of, pull yourself together, man.
Yeah, I'd agree. I must just quickly go back, actually, because one of the only scenes that makes me laugh in this is that tiny little scene with Kai Owen as Reese.
Oh, yeah.
Where he phones Gwen, doesn't he? He's like, what's he saying? Can you record, what is it?
Crikey.
Because I want to say Footballers' Wives, because you said it's not that, but it's something really cheesy. He's like, oh, do me a favour, love, just tape or whatever. It's the only light relief in the whole episode, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he's great in that little scene. It's only like 30 seconds long.
Yeah. No, I forgot he was
so
in
likeable.
it, actually. Yeah.
I know, he's so likeable, Reese.
He's a cool guy, isn't he? Yeah. What about Captain Jack then? Mr. Barrowman, Mr. Jazz Hands?
One of the biggest disappointments in this for me is he's just not very good in it.
Oh, I'm glad you said that.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Why, do you think the same?
Yeah, because earlier on when we started reviewing, I said that one of my things might surprise you in terms of performances, and this was it. I thought he was very poor.
Very poor, and he's normally so good. He's normally quite reliable, isn't he, Barrowman? He's quite consistent normally. You know what you're going to get with Barrowman. I don't know what happened with this. It's as if, I don't know if it's because he sort of takes a bit of a back burner and, the episode's more about Lanto. I don't know, but he's so unconvincing in it. And he looks like he's laughing half the time when he should be like looking really like serious, and he just doesn't seem into it at all. It's as if he was given the script an hour before they shot on, I can do this, I don't need to look at the script. I'm Jack. I can do. He's just very, very below par, I thought, in this episode. And I'm going to say the only scene where he even slightly redeems himself is that scene with him and Lanto, where he's like threatening to shoot him, and there's a good standoff between the two of them. But apart from that, he's really below par in this. Yeah. No, did nothing for me at all.
I'm glad you said that, mate, because I feel the same, because because normally he's very, very good, as we've said in up until now when the previous ones reviewed, he's been very good. But the way that I viewed his performance in this one was in a similar way that you thought, where he's been given a script and he's like, I'll do it. But for me, it felt like a lot of the way that he delivered a lot of his lines didn't fit the scene and the other characters in what they were doing, because there were a couple of scenes where there's like the other Torchwood guys around him and they're sort of ready to act. They're like, they can see that everything's kicking off and they're ready to go. But yet Jack is sort of shouting at them and yelling at them like they're doing something wrong. If that, a lot of the time. And he's sort of barking these big orders at them, and he's very shouty and he's threatening, and very much so. So it almost felt like the director, James Strong, has said, right, in this scene, Captain Jack, it says here in the script, look, John, Captain Jack shouts.
Yeah.
So he's gone into the scene and then he shouts the line, but it doesn't seem to quite fit with what's going on. And then they say, right, cut, brilliant. And they get to another scene and it's like, right, Captain Jack threatens Lanto in this one, so I need you to be really threatening. So, but there's no empathy and there's no understanding. He's just got a gun to his head, and even though he's known this guy for however long, we don't know, and he's part of the team essentially, Captain Jack just treats him as a complete stranger that's just wandered in and has threatened them all. That's one. I'm glad you mentioned that, because the no empathy thing is something it needed. We know that she's got to die, and he knows that. But there is absolutely no empathy with it at all. And also when he orders Lanto to shoot her, it's a bit too harsh, even for Jack. Yeah. He's normally the guy that's sort of like, Lanto, just distract Lanto. I'm going to go down there and sort this out. He doesn't need to see this, but it's got to be done, isn't he? That's the sort of thing Jack would normally do. He'd be like, keep Lanto busy. I'm going down there. She's got to be shot. Yeah. He doesn't need to be involved. Just get him out of the way. But no, instead, he's like, there's no empathy. He's like, you go down there. You did this to us. You shoot him. It's just horrible. And I don't like. I didn't like the performance at all. Again, I'm going to put a lot of the blame at Chibbers for the script, because that's the way he's written it. Like you said, he's written it like that. He's written Jack's character to be like that. So yeah, it's a bit down to Chibbers, but
Barrowman just doesn't seem to be on top form in this episode.
No.
And even when he's like dying, he looks like he's laughing. The first time he gets electrocuted, he falls to the floor. You look at his face; he looks like he's. It just looks like he's just not into it. It's like he's not taking it seriously, just at all. Yeah.
It was okay. One of the very last scenes where him and Gwen are up in the top level, if you like, and it's all just glass wall and they can see out. And Gwen sort of asks him a few questions, and he looks down at Lanto and sort of nods to him like, we're all good now, sort of thing, as long as you clean the place up. And, and sort of him and Gwen are having a little chat. I mean, that's okay because he's kind of sensed the tone of the scene, John Barrowman, to me. He's kind of sensed that everything's quietened down. And but all the scenes previous to that, it just felt like there was a bit of a disconnect between him and the other people. It felt like, the other members of the team are there to help you to sort the problem out. So why are you treating them like crap? Yeah. That's the vibe that I get from this episode anyway. But
do you agree with me about the way he forgives Lanto so quickly as well?
Yes, it's a bit.
It doesn't make sense,
does it? It doesn't fit either, does it, really?
Because what was the first episode, I've forgotten the character's name. Like, she's out of there because I forget what she does now. God, my memory. But you know what I mean? The one that...
Oh, yeah, that's In Everything Changes.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? If you betray Torchwood or you hide stuff from them, you're gone. There's no ifs, buts, maybes where, so it doesn't make sense to me that everything would just be, oh, well, she's dead now. Go and tidy up the papers, Lanto, and everything's fine. It just doesn't make any sense to me at all that Jack would be like that, especially after being so harsh just 10 minutes earlier, So I agree with you about the scene. I think it's a nice sort of a end scene. Everything's calm, but I think Lanto would have been thrown out of Torchwood. I think he would be, he'd probably be working in a post office with no memory of what Torchwood even is. He'd be gone.
That's true.
If he did that. So again, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think the scene that they had planned as well as the final scene would have been nicer as well because everything that the Torchwood crew have seen Lanto go through. If Captain Jack wasn't going to show any empathy towards him, at least some of the other people would have done. So there was a scene that they wrote where, as Lanto is cleaning up at the end, Tosh actually comes over and brings him a cup of coffee and sort of sees if he's okay. But that was vetoed, and they thought like an aerial shot of the hub would have been a more fitting end to the story, which I don't agree with, really.
No, I don't agree.
Because the story starts with and is ultimately about Lanto. So it should end with Lanto, in my opinion. But
I think it needed a scene between Lanto and Jack. It needed a scene with them in the office talking it through, and Jack, because I need an explanation of why Jack insisted that he shoot her. But it needs to be more than just, well, you brought her in, it's your problem. Because Jack doesn't do that. Jack solves problems. So it needed an explanation for why he was so harsh, and it needed a resolution. You can't just say, "Oh well, that's that done. Let's get the kettle on." Yeah, you can't just do that with Torchwood. So it needed a scene between Jack and Lanto, and we didn't need to see it all, but we needed to see them rebuilding, the trust, and then maybe the camera pans back, and next week everything's all right. But it needed something between the two of them.
Absolutely, mate.
Yeah.
Anything you want to mention before we jump onto our scores?
No, actually, I did have one other positive, which I completely forgot till now,
cool. Let's hear it.
Which was the music. I liked the music in this one.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's is it our old mate Murray? I don't know. It doesn't tell us, but I thought the music was pretty cool. It was, quite eerie in places, added to the atmosphere, and a little bit of guitar thrusting coming on and stuff. So it wasn't too bad. I like the Torchwood. like the music in it. I mean,
okay. Okay.
What is being whispered through the theme as well? Every time an episode ends, the Torchwood theme, it sounds like someone's saying stuff through it. Have you noticed it?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I don't know, mate.
What are they saying? Is it some subliminal message that's going in every week? I need to know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you will buy my soundtracks. You will buy my soundtrack.
You will like Broadchurch. Broadchurch will be amazing.
Yeah.
Right, scores, mate. I think it's me to go first.
I think it's you this week, yeah.
Right, I'm going to go in with a 3.5.
Oh, harsh.
Yep.
I'm not too far off you, actually. I'm a 4.5.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. It's not a complete dog's dinner, but as I said, I find it watchable. But Yeah, just not that great. So yeah, 4.5. I can't go higher than that.
Yeah, my score's quite low, as you gathered.
Yeah.
It's, the reason for that is because I am just absolutely bemused as to why two of potentially some of the best writers that we have in television today thought that this was all a good idea. That I'm just absolutely, it's one of life's mysteries to me. It's like, come on, guys. Jesus wept. You guys are like, the best. You're like Top Gun. You're like the elite almost. And here you are just putting together this confusingly weird, poor story. I just can't wrap my head around it. I really can't.
Good. Yeah, like you said, there's a good little concept in there somewhere, but it's completely lost.
Yes.
Yeah.
What did our awesome listeners think to this one then? Let's jump over to Twitter. The Primeval podcast.
Hello, guys.
A Cyberwoman covered in barbecue sauce fighting a pterodactyl might look good on a poster for this episode, but it just wasn't a good story.
No. I'd forgot. Oh, it's awful.
For the sake of our listeners who can't see Adam, he has his face in his hands at the minute.
It's just that scene, and it's terrible.
It had potential, but not much of the story makes sense, nor was good. One Cyberwoman covered in barbecue sauce fighting a pterodactyl out of 10.
Quite agree.
Oh dear. Sarah Louise back at the Running Hoovian says, I struggled with this one. I couldn't buy into the storyline. It made no sense. If you needed to save your girlfriend from alien tech, why not enlist the team of alien experts around you?
Exactly.
Production values were good. And I think Gwen and Owen stole the show for Yanto's episode. A 4 out of 10.
Cheers, Sarah.
Oh dear. James, J. Arkham Review says, okay, I like this one. But mostly for the performances. I really love how emotionally charged it is, with Gareth David Lloyd giving a stellar job. Bern Gorman as Owen really sells the fact that Cyberman is the most dangerous thing in the world and seems legitimately terrified. There's some really good body horror with the poor doctor, and the way his eye is replaced just looks gruesome. But the actual Cyberwoman, and then he puts in capital letters, Chibnall, what were you thinking? Just a pathetic attempt to go, hey, we're adult Doctor Who, through fetishing.
Yeah.
Story-wise, a 6.5.
Yeah, I agree, James.
Let's have a look. We had a couple more on Twitter. I'm going to be very unprepared and not find them. Where we are? Where are we?
Lost in the ether.
Lost in the ether. Yes, there was a couple more. Where are we? Yes, here we go. Harry Brown 16 says, Cyberwoman is a weird one. There are many elements that just feel wrong or silly, but then some of it works bloody fantastically. I would say the good outweighs the bad, a 7.5.
Wow, okay.
Okie dokie. And IB Productions says, I personally really hate this story. Acting is poor, storyline is bad, and overall, I just really do not enjoy the story. Barrowman and Gareth David Lloyd are good enough, and the others are very appalling. 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Let's do a couple of audio reviews. First time audio reviewer sender inner.
Yes.
This is Ash Prosser.
Nice.
Hello, Gary and Adam from the Big Doctor Who Big Blue Box podcast. This is Ash Prosser. First time sending in a voice note. Cyberwoman by the new Doctor Who showrunner, Chris Chibnall. Now, I don't think this episode is as bad as everybody makes it out to be. I think that it's an okay overall story. It fleshes out Yanto's character as well as a good play on deception, betrayal and loyalty within the Torchwood team. It's got a bad design for the Cyberwoman. You can see that it was clearly aimed at teenage boys. As well, why would the Cybermen equip her with high heel boots? That just really doesn't make sense when you want a tactical advantage. I think mainly the story gets a bad reputation because of how the Cyberwoman looks. The ending was dark, with Lisa transplanting her brain into the pizza delivery girl's body. I think it's a good example of why Doctor Who spin-offs should leave more iconic aliens to the main show and stick to using new aliens on their own. Overall, not good, not bad, 6 out of 10. Thanks, guys.
Excellent.
6.
Thanks. I love it when we get new new voices on the show. Thanks for sending the audio, mate. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you, Ash. Very cool.
Thanks, Ash.
And we have another audio clip. This is our regular audio reviewer. This is Sammy.
Sammy.
G'day, Gary and Adam. Sammy Satine here. So, Cyberwoman. I really like this story. I just don't know whether I like the Cyberwoman design or not. I also don't know if it should have been this early in the series, as we don't know Lanto that well yet. That aside, good story. I just wish my DVD hadn't played up whilst I was watching it. Grr. I give it 8 Cyberwomen out of 10. See ya.
An 8.
Now that does surprise me. I don't know why. I didn't think Sammy would like this one.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Also, it wasn't supposed to be this early on in the series, was it? I think it was brought forward. I think it was supposed to be episode 6 or 8 even, but they didn't have the scripts ready, so they had to bring it forward. So you're quite right. It does would have maybe benefited from being later on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's rattle through a few on Facebook that we got through. Jordan Shortman, one of our writers, said, certainly one of the weakest episodes of the whole series, but I quite like that there is blood and gore of cyber conversion that we don't see in the parent show. And the design of the Cyberwoman isn't that bad, ignoring the heels that she has on, which really takes you out events. Gareth David Lloyd puts in an adequate performance, but he's hardly been in the show in the past few episodes, so it's hard to care about him that much. Sadly, there is very little to recommend about this one. Yes. Miles McKenzie. Don't know why, but I've got a bit of a soft spot for this one.
Oh.
I like the fact that he connects more into Doctor Who and Army of Ghosts Doomsday, and there's a nice backstory for Lanto Jones. I like the darker elements of the Cybermen too, when she tries to upgrade the dude and there's parts of steel in his face. Just the story felt like it could have had a few tweaks here and there. The team performed brilliantly too. Overall, not too bad, not great, 5 out of 10.
Cool.
Joseph Howarth, possibly the worst episode in Torchwood I've seen.
Oh.
The concept is utterly stupid. I have no idea why Chibnall ever wrote this story in question. So many plot holes. The Cyberwoman design is just wrong on so many levels and looks very questionable in some areas I can't explain. I never want to see this episode again. 1 out of 10.
1, dearie me.
Gavrick Sawyer. This is the only Torchwood story I've ever seen. Oh dear, Gavrick.
Really? Could be the last.
And that was round at Lewis Palmer's house a few days ago. Our listeners are ganging together.
I like it.
The ideas are good, but my main problem really lies in the logic of the conversion. Like, how come Lisa's face is preserved when the first bit of cyber conversion to take place on the Doctor was his face? Like, do the Cybermen just pick a random place to start converting people each time? Laugh out loud.
That whole scene's ridiculous.
Yeah. Also, I felt the gore was a little tasteless. The Cybermen are far too clean and efficient to not consider something like draining blood from their victims first, right? Story-wise, there are some weak lines and such that detract from the overall experience, but it was fun, I guess. Gives it a 6 out of 10.
All round to Lewis Palmer's for next week's episode.
Yes. Get the kettle on, Lewis. Kevin Mullen, very short and sweet. He just says, oh dear, 1 out of 10. And Lewis Palmer, our new host of the Watch for Reviews evening, says, take all the visuals out of this and you've got a pretty decent Cyberman story. Performances are pretty great in this, particularly from Gareth David Lloyd, sorry. The way the Cybermen are talked about is amazing. You really feel like they are a huge threat. Unfortunately, as good as some of it is, there's a ton of plot holes. I won't read the rest of Lewis Palmer's review. It's quite long, but he goes on to give it a 6 out of 10. Dan Pin says, I'm not watching that again. Utter pants. 1 out of 10. Fortunately, better episodes to come.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Mark Atkinson, terrible. 1 out of 10. And Zach Jenkin also says terrible. Out of 10.
Terrible.
Not even a score.
Not even a score. 0.
Crikey, Moses.
Oh, dearie me.
That was tough. Right, anything over on your Geeks Handbag channel?
Yeah, I had a couple actually. So Ash White just said it should be deleted.
Very nice.
Very nice. So we did there, Ash. Wilhelmina says she loves this episode. Really sad at the end. So Wilhelmina liking it. Kevin Mullen says, why does she have a special costume? It makes no sense except to titillate. Yes. Patrick Sherwood, really like this episode. He says, one of my favourites from Series 1. Cyberwoman is great. The rest of the cast are good. Shining episode for Lanto, so I'm glad he got to have an episode devoted to him. So he's going to give it a 10 out of 10. Patrick,
Wowzers. Madness,
but good for you, mate. Glad you like it. Dean Jones says, it's not too bad, but it's far from the best Torchwood. The most glaring issue is easily the Cyberwoman suit itself. Just looks ridiculous. There's a bit of repetition because it's confined to one location, but it's understandable. There can be a bit of forced humour, in particular the scene of dialogue between Gwen and Owen. Yes, very forced, and Dean gives it a 6 out of 10. Just two more. Bradley Willard, Cyberwoman has some interesting ideas, but the overly exaggerated use of blood and gore makes it feel a tad weak for an adult sci-fi series, especially when the narrative suffers as a result. On the other hand, the main cast do give some great performances, and it's interesting to see a Doctor Who villain portrayed in this extremely dark and morbid fashion on screen, and Bradley gives it a 6 out of 10. And finally, Martin Vincent, our good friend Mr. Bad Wolf, says the core idea is great, but it's let down by the execution. We're told that in desperation during the Battle of the Canary Wharf, Cybermen started conveying everything and anything, yet they took time to custom make Lisa her own suit. It doesn't make sense. If she'd been in a standard Cyberman costume, I think this episode would be held in higher regard, says Martin. So once again, we're bringing up the costume. I think it does have a lot to answer for. Yes, and that's it.
That's it, right?
That's it.
So as we expected then, fairly low to mediocre scores for this one.
Yeah.
However, one last positive is that we've got it out the way.
It's not one I'll be watching again anytime soon.
I won't reach for that one for a while.
No.
Yeah. Unless we're doing like I don't know, some sort of Torchwood marathon or something like that. I don't know. But
it's interesting to rewatch these actually, because I am although episodes good or bad, I am enjoying reevaluating Torchwood because so far it's not as good as I remember, which makes me think it's not dated as well. I know there's better to come. I remember thinking back in the day that Series 2 was an improvement, but yeah, it's just interesting going back and rewatching these and just seeing if they've sort of held together well. And so far, bit hit and miss actually.
Yeah.
Not like the Sarah Jane Adventures, which I'm absolutely loving. They're the absolute opposite at the minute. I'm loving going through them. Yeah.
Anyways, that's that done and out of the way. Next week, we're back to modern Doctor Who. What have we got next week, buddy?
So next week is a Matt Smith story, and it is Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS.
Okay.
Right. So that's, I don't know what series that was. Is it 8? Possibly. No, 7. I don't know. Anyway, It's Matt Smith.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yes. So get that watched. You fine listeners, we'll be asking for your reviews, etc. for that next week. But yeah, I think we'll do there for 198.
Okay.
Thank you so much, guys, for sticking with us and giving 198 a good old listen. Next week, Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS. Get that watched, however means necessary, to carry out that mission. Because keep an eye out on the social channels, etc. Every Monday, we put out a request for your reviews and thoughts on these episodes, and we read them all out on the show. And why not record an audio clip for us? Up to a minute max. Just give us your thoughts on that week's episode and email it to us, hello@bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk, and we'll play that out too.
I love the audio reviews.
They're awesome, aren't they?
Keep them coming.
Keep them coming, yes. In the meantime, head over to the website www.bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all of our shows on there and download them and stuff. And you can also link off to all of our social accounts. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Head over to those, give us a subscribe, a like and a follow and all that jazz, because we do chat plenty of Who in between our shows that go out every Friday. And there's also big buttons on there to go over to the podcast networks. We're on the big ones, iTunes, Stitcher, all that stuff. And if you are an iTunes listener, if you could spare a minute for a review and a rating, that would be amazing, because that really helps. Also, when you've got a minute, why don't you go over to YouTube and check out Adam's channel, The Geek's Handbag.
Geek's Handbag.
Adam runs an awesome channel over there. Tons of really cool reviews, unboxings, convention roundups, location visits, the whole shebang.
I've got so many vids coming your way, you wouldn't believe it. Soon. I've been a bit quiet recently, but man, I've got some videos coming.
Can't wait.
I've got about 6 that I'm editing at the minute, and I want to get them out in the next couple of weeks. So, yeah, look out for those.
Awesome sauce.
Yeah.
So give Adam a subscribe on YouTube. Plus, he's on the usual socials. Just search for The Geek's Handbag and follow him for geek, humour, wildness, and the odd selfie.
I'm everywhere.
Until next time for 199. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember, Allons-y.